Watching Pizza Hut do like a 10% inflation promotion deal discount thing is probably the most weird way of telling us that we're f***ed that I've ever seen in my entire life. They're like, wait, we have 10% off pizza. It's an anti-inflation sale, okay? Buy our pizzas for $34 instead of the 16 it was last year. Like, none of the math makes sense. And when you look into the market right now, nothing makes sense. I wouldn't say it's like 2008 level if you're from that era, okay? But it is pretty funny watching two people that looks like they would fight for Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the back of a school bus be the ones to almost essentially crash the entire crypto market because they got beef, okay? And they're using so many acronyms that I can't even keep up, and their Twitter stuff is so nerdy. It seems like I'm reading a coding language. All I want to know is how the f do they not have the money that they say they have, okay? And when I go out there, it seems to be happening a lot. You want to go into stocks right now? Okay, first off, big boy stocks, stop buying courses. That stuff is shit, okay? Investments, also shit. Crypto, super duper lollygag shit, okay? But when you go into car parts, kind of shit, okay? And that's kind of weird because for the most part of this year, everything's been increasing in price. And for some reason or another, when you go out there right now, people are doing 70% off sales, 50% off sales, these blowout sales absolutely everywhere. And you have to ask, like, what changed so fast to cause them from going from these overinflated prices to now offering 40-50% off for a set of wheels or for a set of for an intake or for an exhaust? And it is a little funky. So I put on the old detective cap and I figured out why everybody's selling their shit for super cheap, and I figured I'd tell you. Okay, so I'm Alexmartini with 2 underscores on Instagram, and today we're talking about cars. More specifically, we're talking about just what exactly is happening in the aftermarket part industry and why it seems like everything is flipping upside down, and whether you should actually buy car parts right now or if you should still hold on. So hope you guys enjoyed. Please don't forget to subscribe. And if you're looking to pick up a t-shirt, we actually just got these Keep It Modified tees. They're super nice. I'm wearing a large because I'm more on like the, I don't know, I'm kind of doing the baggy clothes thing right now. And it's really nice. It's got the 430 thing on the back. And if that's not really your thing, there's a couple other hats and stuff and t-shirts out there. It would mean a lot if you picked one up. And of course, hit 'em, John. Just don't wear a black t-shirt in a house full of 6 cats, okay? So we're gonna take it a step back from what I think is the tech industry, okay? So before we get into cars, let's talk about iPads. Just kidding. What we're gonna talk about is everything else happening. If you go out on YouTube or TikTok or Reddit, or even like you listen to people talk, they're all talking about like Elon Muskie. My boy Elon Muskie buying Twitter, and everybody's all upset about it. Now, regardless on your opinion of the fact, doesn't change the fact that he's probably laying off people, right? Then you go over to Meta. Meta's laying off people. Then you go over to Snapchat. Snapchat's just drowning. It's like the one kid in the meme that's just trying to stay above water and just can't for some reason or another. Instagram is trying to be the cool old dad that still doesn't understand that you can't use racist remarks in a public Perkins, okay? And it just seems like everyone in the tech industry is starting to lay off a bunch of people. Because that's happening, right? There's a lot of noise in the industry. A lot of people scared in terms of what's going on. And you see these other companies looking at these tech companies and saying, they're the ones that are gonna fire first, and we need to fire immediately after. And it doesn't have to go into the fact that even though like buying behavior actually hasn't changed that much from Q3 this year to Q2 of this year. If you're a little bit of a nerd, maybe you enjoy this sort of conversation, but buying behavior actually didn't change drastically. It's been more so of the same. There was a little dip in September, but that usually happens when people are going back to school. They don't want to spend as much money. They typically try to hunker down, and they're just trying to build up their savings. Now, what I can say is that people have less money in their bank account this year than they did last year, 2 years ago, and 3 years ago, and they're still trying to claw that back, but it's still really, really far away. So what does the tech business have to do with the automotive industry? Well, it's kind of one of those things where if enough people scream fire, people are going to believe that there's a fire. You can look at the unemployment rate and all that, those other math problems that tell you that there isn't one, but if there's enough people screaming in your ear that you need to be panicking, you'll panic. And with the tech industry, it's all panic. Everyone out there, you go on TikTok, everyone's talking about this. Everybody's talking about how every single tech company is laying off people, which is scaring a lot of individuals. And more importantly, it's scaring other industries. It's scaring industries like the automotive segment, which are looking at these things, watching the sales kind of come down, and they start panicking. You have to remember, that for those that don't know, 2020 and 2021 for automotive aftermarket businesses was a huge year for them. It was a massive, astounding year because there was free money put in and everybody like you and people like me bought car parts because we were supposed to. That was the point of a stimulus check. The point of a stimulus check was to stimulate the economy. Okay? It wasn't meant to raise Pizza Hut prices by 72%, okay? It was meant to stimulate the economy, and it did that. It stimulated the fuck out of it. It stimulated it so much it added its own category to a website, okay? It got so bad now that because of that money, a lot of people thought that was going to stay as they went into 2022, and it hasn't. The money hasn't stayed there. People are pulling back in terms of putting more money into their savings account, and they're spending more like 2019. So you have automotive industries freaking out. They see these huge companies letting people go, and then they start to see a little bit of a less spending habits on different sort of aftermarket components. So what happens? Typically what happens is you have to make a decision, right? You either have to stay the course as a little branded company or you pivot. And there's only two things you can do when the market starts to slow down. You can lower your costs, which means fire people, or you can try to get more gross sales, which doesn't really help if you're just giving away all the money you'd actually make at the end of the day. But the problem with this in the car scene is that companies don't understand how sensitive this audience actually is. Like, car people don't like really being sold to. They like being talked to. They like having a relationship with the people that they're buying from. That's why a lot of times that used marketplace is such a tight-knit group of people and why people will just flip-flop cars all the time, because the relationship makes the buying process super easy on the car side, because everything outside of you having a relationship in the car scene in terms of like what you enjoy doing makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense to spend $750 on a steel pipe for your intake, but you do it because you like the brand, or you like what the brand represents, or you like the dude that works there, or you like the homie that built it or fabricated it. You like the person that's associated with it, typically, is what you like. It's not the part itself, it's all the other things, right? So when these companies start getting into this really weird spot, they typically start to angle towards deals, because the best way to buy people's love is promotions. The best way to buy people's attention are sales. It's like what Kohl's did forever and still does to this day. Kohl's Cash is a cult and I don't really understand how it works. And so by putting things on sale, the whole goal is obviously to increase overall sales so that they can get through whatever is happening right now in the market. Now, tires are more expensive, aluminum went down in price, shipping went down in price. So really what it's battling is just overall less buying happening in 2022 versus 2021. You can't buy people's love forever though, and that's always the biggest issue with this sort of stuff. And I do have experience. I do have a little bit of experience in this realm, because you have to be a personal touch right now if you are gonna try selling. Because brands are pushing a lot of sales to try and keep the performance they had for 2 years prior that just will not happen again. You get these companies starting to push into this mentality that this is not a community, that it's just another consumer market. It's just another place to buy. It's just another Amazon. And a lot of people are treating the automotive industry right now like it's Amazon, and it's not. These people don't want, like, I don't want to be sold to on a deal right now if I know the market sucks. If everything sucks, why would you try to sell to me? Don't try to sell to me. Try to like make me forget that the world stinks a little bit, right? But that's not what people are doing. And a lot of people in the automotive industry, I would say, outside of the fact that they're trying to get more sales than last year, outside of the fact that they're just looking at the tech industry and getting absolutely freaked, the last thing about it is that a lot of these companies are putting a ton of money, a ton of resources into making their own brands. They're doing like the Amazon methodology, where you see a lot of these aftermarket companies that make intakes, they make air filters, right? They make tunes, or they sell these parts, right? And over time, these companies say, well, I can make that. I'll find a company in China, I'll find a company in Japan, I'll find a company in Taiwan, and I'll make the product myself. I'll sell it a little bit cheaper, I'll make more money, and we'll be all set to go. And all it requires is $500,000 in capital, and I'll make that money back in 3 years. Where do you think they got $500,000 in terms of the capital to start up these brands? A lot of times they got that money in 2020. They got that money when the stimulus checks were coming through. So all of these companies that are now coming to market this year, specifically probably in the last 90 to 180 days, they're all built on the capital of the stimulus check. And now nobody's buying. So they sunk all that money into a brand or into an idea. They're trying to sell it. It's not working. So what do? Sales. And the last thing I'll say about this is that it seems like the car industry is so damn stubborn. Even the truck guys, the Jeep guys, I feel like we can all come together and we can like cohesively say that we are a stubborn group of individuals. So when the market starts to go down and we start getting pushed to go do something, sometimes we like to just do the opposite because f you, all right? Most of the time, that's the response in the automotive industry. And that's where like that authenticity of this space is so incredible. It's why it's like no other place before it, because you're not just selling to a Jane on Amazon that only cares about how fast it'll get there and if it's got good reviews. In the car industry, you're buying like a relationship, you're buying a story, and that authenticity is worth something. So when things start to get tight in the marketplace and these companies, their response is just to put everything on sale and completely lose sight of who we are as people, it kind of stinks and it makes us not even want to support them even more. That's why a lot of times I think the marketplace is such a great place to shop right now, because there's so many great parts out there at a good price that you can get. Or you have a really strong relationship with a vendor or a brand out there that does care about you, and you know they care about you, and they're not just trying to cover their wallet, they're actually trying to help you build a car. And as long as it stays for you, you should be good. But if you feel like it's not really for you right now, my recommendation is not to pull the trigger. And that's really what it comes down to. Like, people like us see that. If we know it's a bad time out there and they know it's a bad time out there, but they're telling us to do something that they wouldn't do, it seems almost counterintuitive. It seems like you're trying to pull a fast one on us. And that's what I'm seeing happen in the market right now. I'm seeing a lot of people not really feeling comfortable buying any sort of car parts at all because they feel like it's not a good time. And the brands have to make a choice. They either say, yes, we agree, or no, we don't buy our stuff anyway. And because it's an automotive industry, which is filled with a bunch of emotional 18 to 24-year-old men, they're saying, well, that's stupid because you wouldn't do it. And they're like, well, yeah, probably not, because we're laying off people. But buy our stuff. It's like, well, I don't know if that's entirely the case there, Jack. I think right now, if you are going to be building a car that may come down to that space, know who you're buying it from and make sure you feel comfortable doing it, because getting car parts and buying stuff right now is only gonna get harder. I think the rest of the year, it might pick up a little bit. I think these deals that you're seeing are just deflated prices from 2019. I don't know if you're actually saving that much money. I think there'll be some good stuff on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, but outside of that, you're really gonna start to see some of these companies really hurt in December and January. You're gonna see a lot of the automotive industry tighten up. You're probably gonna see some companies shut their doors because they put too much money into an idea of trying to make their own product. They put too much money into ideas that were way too fast or blown way out of proportion, or it just doesn't make sense for them to exist in that market anymore. Maybe they're pulling back and throwing it somewhere else. I think that it's really important as somebody who's gonna buy stuff right now to know those things, because otherwise you're gonna waste a ton of money. You really, really are, because the product you bought in 2019 is the same exact product that you're buying in 2022. Like the mold and the things like that may have changed slightly, but the material is still the same. The product itself is still almost identical. So when you're spending 25% more just because, you guys should know that. You gals should know that, and you should make sure that you still feel comfortable buying it. Otherwise, you're gonna get good old buyer's remorse, and you're gonna be like, well, what the fuck? It was 50% off now it's 60% off. And it's like, well, what's the value of the part then? It's like Blitz 03s. You remember when you got mad about Blitz 03s being 10 grand because Adam LZ bought like 40 sets of them and so did TJ Hunt? At the end of the day, the price is whatever they set it to be. It's whatever you believe the price to be worth. And everybody got all up in arms about that because it was really, really expensive, but they're still just Blitz 03s, right? Well, the same thing is happening right now in every other category of part where you're looking at certain things like intakes or exhausts or tunes or TCUs, and you're like, that was $1,000. You know, a year ago. It was $1,200 a year ago. Now it's $1,800, $2,100. It's the same exact component. So what changed, right? And having brands explain to you those things or why those things exist is super important, because if they're just offering you a bunch of deals and they're just hoping that you pull the trigger on something so that they can save their own butt, I don't think that's actually gonna build a relationship. I think it's just gonna turn our entire industry into another Amazon. And like, this industry doesn't do that. It's not meant to be like that. It's meant to be a relationship. It's meant to be a community. And I am ranting because gosh darn it, I believe that to be true. But let me know what you think, because maybe I'm just completely wrong. I'm Alex, Alexmartini with 2 underscores on Instagram. Today we had a chance to talk about cars. We hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions below, as we're still responding to all of them, and we hope you enjoyed. We will see you later. Peace.